Welcome back, everybody. We are, I'm sure, all pumped about the Shooty Hoops that starts tomorrow for March Madness, but do not forget, we still got College COD, baby. I'm ready for it. We've got, actually, interestingly enough, two schools that just barely missed out on the top cut from their opening stage. Oklahoma Christian, New Mexico State, and the Aggies. Both teams are looking like they could and very well should be playoff contenders, and this very well also could be the top tier matchup in this particular top cut here, Andy.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we all saw, I'm sure, well, unless you don't follow fastball, then you probably didn't end up seeing. Fastball has been on an absolute tear as of late, along with Oklahoma Christian. And this university is definitely looking to prove their strength going in towards the end of the season. The same could be said about New Mexico State. Look, the Aggies, we talked about them even last season just as a college alone. Not exactly the same roster that we once had, Allen, but I think that when you're thinking about these two teams playing in towards the end of the season as a whole, they want to continue to show their strength, that they have what it takes to be a championship caliber team.
Badly need to, by the way, as well. I think for a lot of people that are kind of looking at what the dynamic of the top cut is going to be, you forget about the teams that did not make it. Both these teams are... You forget about them and you've made a mistake. That's pretty much all I'm going to say. We kind of talked about the premise of what happens when it comes to the postseason playoffs. These two teams will guaranteed have to fight through the LCQ, but when you're looking at the rest of the teams kind of in the midst of this second tier, this is really like one of your remaining proving points that you have left, right? Like this is where you're really going to get the last bit of maybe solid, super solid kind of practice, just due to the fact that you've got, you know, a lot of teams that just barely made it to the second cut that should be walkovers for both of these two teams. So yeah, I'm pumped to see what these two teams have to offer for us on their road to recovery after missing the top cut. Are they still improving? That's the last thing you want, is to sit there and say, we missed the top cut, so we're just kind of going to phone in the second half of the CCL season and then hope for playoffs. You need to still put good pressure and good work in if you want to make playoffs this year. So for both these two teams, as mentioned, 12-3. I didn't actually mention that, but that third loss is what kept them out of the top cut. You see the records down the road, and well, I'll say this much. I didn't realize this, but both teams flawless in control so far.
Crazy, isn't it? I mean, you are able to miss out on the top cut, the tier 1 pools, if you will. You're flawless in control. And you can even take a look at Oklahoma Christian, 12-2 in search and destroy. It's really the hard points that came back and plagued them, right? I mean, you're really considering for this Oklahoma Christian squad, especially with such a mainstay name like Fastball on your roster, to be able to prove your strength. Because look, everybody from tier 2 is going to be in the LCQ, the regional LCQ. So you're right to say earlier, Alan, that all of these teams are basically looking at the best possible practice. These two teams are going to give each other possible pushback, which both teams are desperately going to need. It could be the hard point for Oklahoma Christian, judging off the score lines. It could be MNSU, who absolutely need the help in their search and destroy.
Yeah, we'll see. Take a look over at Oklahoma Christian. First and foremost, they've already obviously mentioned the spotlighted player in Fastball, but he's joined and flanked with a handful of really solid players on top of that. I know a lot of people are very excited about Gus and Wisdom, both players that have been doing pretty damn solid, if I'm being candid with you, in the challenger scene. I remember when I was first exposed to, it was, you know, a couple of the top 32s here or there, mostly top 64s, but this year's been a bit of a different story. So I'm kind of pumped to see not only what those two can bring alongside Bala, but also, of course, I hate to say just their fourth, but the fourth player on the roster being Days. You know, is he able to kind of hang with the other three on this squad?
It's all about just keeping pace, right? I mean, we already know what all three of these other players are going to be able to offer for himself. I mean, Bala was literally just a 1v odd situation away going back a few Call of Duties ago versus Karma that he probably would still be in the limelight, probably wouldn't actually be playing at the CCL had he ended up winning that. That's obviously all speculation aside, but joining the likes of Gus and Wisdom, it's going to be a pacing thing. How does Days fit into the rest of this roster?
We'll take a look on the opposite side for New Mexico State and the four that they're going to bring to the battlefield here. It is a tough prospect, I think, for anybody to go up against these squads, but that's the thing, is we said that from day number 1, and we were proven wrong time and time again about this Oklahoma Christian team. Even in the wins that they put together, some of them were much closer than you would have expected. So for Electric MC, Jolteon, Turkey Neck, and Oze, well, do they have the special sauce here as well to try to take those star-studded players?
Just such a, like, you had so many different options and so many different opportunities to name yourself after so many different things that led off with Turkey, and you went with Turkey Neck. I mean, just think about that for a second. I mean, like,
why not?
It's no shade towards the name. It's just funny as hell. Don't get me wrong. Like, But yeah, I mean, look, this Aggie roster, even when we did end up going to watch them back in Tier 1, I got to see a lot of their bright spots. And the thing about this New Mexico State University roster is the one thing that they were constantly telling us is that, they didn't have all the practice in the world. They didn't exactly put their heads down to the grindstone, if you will, Alan. Now is a better time than ever, if you will, to be able to showcase what you've got, especially against a very contested team that wants to be able to prove themselves to all of CCL that they are a top contender.
Just for what it's worth, the other teams kind of in this second tier that could potentially contest these two. You're looking at Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Colorado Boulder, and then Texas Arlington are really the only ones that are putting together a respectable start to this second cut in the second stage. Let's take a look, though, at this map pool. See exactly where we will be heading for this best of 5. Berlin, map number 1. Tuscan for the search, and then at least the Gavudu for the control. I think let's just, call a spade. I think we look first and foremost at where does New Mexico State have the best opportunity to take a map in these first 3.
I mean, it's going to have to come through in the hard point, right? One thing that I was able to walk away with when I was actually casting Oklahoma Christian back in the first stage with Visions, actually, was that this team was just all over the place. Discombobulated was the word that I used coming away from their hard points, and that was actually off of a Bocage. They got 3-0'd in that series that Austin and I were casting, Alan, and it was a Bocage hard point. I know that it's very hard to be able to, maintain any sort of fundamentals when it comes down to a hard point. That was back in stage 1. Now we're in stage 2, to where teams should be a lot more comfortable with one another, and especially in a fundamental map that is Berlin, you should be able to showcase not only those fundamentals, but being comfortable with one another as well. That team cohesion, more often than not, is going to be able to win you out of Berlin hardpoint. We see that all the way up to the CDL level, and I think if New Mexico State want to continue to prove themselves, it has to be through this first map. A little bit more of a coin flip will end up being that Gavutu control, but I think if you're looking at the 1 and 4 for New Mexico, that should be a guaranteed win of those 2 maps when it comes down to the Berlin and the Bocage hardpoint.
All right. Let's see how things unfold here. I mean, it's a difficult pathway to build, a road through here for New Mexico State, just due to the fact that Oklahoma Christian is who they are. And so far through this second tier cut, they haven't, I believe, dropped more than a map. I think they may have lost 1 to Oregon at the beginning of the stage. Yeah, they did. They dropped the opening hard point. So, I don't know. It's just, like I mentioned, it's called spade. Oklahoma Christian is by far the favorite team here, just by the roster alone. So New Mexico State really has to come out here and show us something. So we'll see. The Aggies in the white. That's where we stop. That's all we know. All we know.
All we get. All we get. And we're also being told, actually, by one of our observers that Days is actually Sniper Des as well. So these 4 players that are being represented by Oklahoma Christian as a whole are all players that we have seen before, both you and I, when it comes down to either challengers or even here in the CCL, specifically for Sniper Des. And I know when you are thinking about this roster as a whole, Alan, that everybody's going to be like, oh, watch out for fastball is going to do, or everybody's going to go in the chat and try to flame ball it for whatever reason is the hot take of the day. But I think what you're mostly going to be looking at is how this team is going to be existing with one another. I was very impressed with Sniper Des has to bring to the table. But I'm going to go back to a conversation that you started asking me about what were guaranteed maps for New Mexico State. I talked about the 1 and 4. When you're thinking about these star-studded players, when you're thinking about Oklahoma Christian as the home team, what are their guaranteed maps? You have to be able to win the Search and Destroys. You have to be able to not only maintain a life lead when it comes down to Gavutu, because remember, it's not overall tick progression. We're not playing on that patch yet here. That you have to be able to be a 2-3-5 team. Steal away a hard point, then you're completely changing my mind. You could close this out in 3 maybe, but I think that you got to be looking at the Search and Destroy as a control on the opposite side for Oklahoma Christian, New Mexico State, or the hard point.
Tough scenes, man. It really is. But, hey, the one thing that I think has always been in the background when it comes to a fastball team has been, if you step up to them and take control first, how deep does the composure go? I think has always been kind of the question as far as those teams have been concerned when he's playing with like M. Ruiz and stuff during BO4. That was kind of the big thing. Obviously, it turned into him not actually getting to the CWL. He dropped off that roster, and, well, the rest, as they say, before that is history. Man, it's tough. I feel like the biggest thing that I'm having a problem with right now is just being able to value teams that barely missed out on the top cut. How do you really rate them throughout the rest of the season? Because they're playing largely softball games when it comes down to what they had in their first stage. Because, like, for Oklahoma Christian and Mexico State, like, both of their first stage matches in their pools were difficult pools. So it's tough to see. I think these two teams sit in the second cut, and then looking at recent results doesn't really, I feel like, give us too much due to the fact that these teams were competing at the top cut level, but just missed out on a tiebreaker here or there.
I think what you mostly have to be looking at is that everybody's going to be sleeping on you going forward. I mean, there was a point in time,
maybe,
obviously,
yeah,
off of roster sake alone, that people were looking at Oklahoma Christian. I mean, you remember, like, they were raised so highly at the beginning of the entirety of the year for the College COD League 2022 that basically you're going to be trying to take as much practice as possible, because regardless whether you hate it or love it, you're going to be playing in the LCQ throughout this second tier of the second part of our season now. And so I think it's just about maintaining whatever properties that you have, focus up, and be able to come out of that LCQ like a bat out of hell, and just whoever you are facing, just don't care what college it is, completely try to play your game and just, again, try to make a name for yourself.
Well, we're having some tech issues, so we're going to send things to a break. Take a moment here to shout things out. What's going on in the Bravo stream? You can find more CCL action by going to twitch.tv/collegecodbravo. Make sure you keep a second tab open. I hopefully think we should be starting soon. Well, for now, take a bit of a reprieve. We'll come back as soon as Berlin's ready for us. Don't go too far.
Back, just idle. Unless there's some lag.
Well, the Buffs having a little bit of a problem with the Bulldogs there in the opening map. If you want to continue watching, you can do so by heading on over to twitch.tv/collegecodbravo. But now we get into Oklahoma Christian, New Mexico State, second tier, actually the same cut as those two teams that are playing on Bravo. So potential standings implications across the board. And, well, as we get on into the opening hardpoint, good start here for New Mexico State. Only thing they're really missing are kills, and Electric MC is able to at least reprieve some of that problem. That is until at least Balla and the rest of his team come back forward to break this from the front.
A great little recontest coming through from Oklahoma Christian. Look, these back 20 seconds. Scrap time and going to mean a lot when it comes down to the Berlin hardpoint, especially when you're talking about from 1 all the way towards 2. They're actually investing a lot of numbers on Oklahoma Christian. That's a lot of faith that Dez, all the way over by the backside of Mail, has to end up winning a rotational gunfight. They'll lose it, so on New Mexico State, the Aggies have an opportunity to try to win this rotation. They are doing so kindly to get into 2 early.
Yeah, good stuff here from New Mexico State, I would say. I mean, from the favorite side of P1, you hope for more time than 13 seconds, but This is one of the things that I always look for out of not just CCL teams, but even when we do stuff with challengers and we're watching over the CDL is, can you take your losses and reset up to give yourself the best look possible at a W? And so far, this first 20 seconds hasn't just been a W. It's been a dominant affair throughout the second hill. Wisdom looking to open up some space through mid-map, but it's still the Aggies in control and around the hard point for a time.
Break back in off of Wisdom's 3-piece. It's going to be quite influential, but I think I'm going to read that the Aggies are actually spawning in the backside of the warehouse. And so far, it looks like that Jolteon has actually completely broken all of the ankles mentally of Oklahoma Christian, but this is a good gunfight to lose. Look, this is going back to the conversation, taking the L's on the chin, getting yourself set up for 3, because this is another money hill when it comes down to Berlin. You hold on to those close stock spawns, find a couple rotational gunfights, especially through the middle of the map. Gus is actually having a player right underneath them. That's going to be Jolteon. If they can find these 2 players in the middle of the map, Allen, and get themselves fully set up going in towards 3, it's going to be a prime position for them to get 40 seconds themselves.
Nicely found here from Gus. Gets a read of the play from the New Mexico State Aggies. It's going to be coming from the street side. And is able to, at least for a time, put some pressure on fire. But as you mentioned, New Mexico State not just flooding through fire, they flip the spawns around. And again, this is a really clinical approach for New Mexico State. Balla has to enter with an automaton, does well to find the first, but nothing more will be there. And New Mexico State, although they're only going to be up by about 10 plus points here, at least for now, they've played a near flawless rotation to 2-3. This is looking really solid for them on this break attempt.
And all for the Aggies have actually been across this B lane, keep in mind. They completely chalked the back end of 1. They won the gunfights going over towards 2, all off the B lane. They cleared out the backside of that main street, and then from 2 to 3, they were able to maintain it yet again. It's just Gus inside this hard point. How long is it going to take for Electric to fully read that? Not too long at all. They will clean them up, but it's just 8 seconds that they are battling over, and it's back to that B lane pressure. This is the Aggie street, more or less, as they're winning more rotational gunfights, trying to break into the backside of the warehouse early.
It's just, this is what we kind of came to see and know throughout the first stage is you kind of look at just the presence of players for Oklahoma Christian. You just assume that OC are going to be great. But good Call of Duty is being played on the other side here for New Mexico State. Here under the train yard, though, the Eagles in first. Good control thus far for the first 30 seconds, but New Mexico State spawning favorably, able to try to flood back on in with the support of nades, and that'll be good. Again, breaking right at the exact 30-second mark. forcing Oklahoma Christian to have to put together a recontest of their own, and as Gus persisted himself in the back, that'll be good enough for numbers to start working their way back forward for Oklahoma Christian.
2, 3, and 4, though, that have been significant rotations for the Aggies, but at least Oklahoma Christian were able to at least mitigate the pressure that was being developed from the backside. It's just being able to recognize with some of that fundamental hardpoint going forward. And inside of 5, it's not exactly the easiest hardpoint to get significant time up of, but I mean, the setup is actually looking really good for Oklahoma Christian. It's just about reading where the spawns are coming from. Gus is able to recognize, hey, there's one inside of the concourse over by the upper courtyard. They'll be cut down, and off of that, Oklahoma Christian are actually giving up all of the space. They lose their lives from top mail and inside the concourse itself, and that's allowing the Aggies to re-put themselves in a position to try to break back in.
The kills are coming a little bit more favorably as well now here from Oklahoma Christian. These individual gunfights that New Mexico State were doing so well with on these rotations have now started to become a little bit more 50-50 in affairs. So Oklahoma Christian, small lead for now. Nice response from Turkey Neck for the first. Hip fire with a little bit of assistance will allow them to take down Gus as well. With 20 seconds to fight for, we're not necessarily just focused on the hard point, but will Oze maybe just showcase some trigger discipline and get around the back? Yes, very well done for him. Does this actually put pressure enough so on the spawns to flip them, though? So far, the answer no. But a couple of eliminations here for Oze on rotation could lead to an opportunity to get this first hard point at least shining white for New Mexico State, and he does find one.
One now has an opportunity to become an absolute money hill through the second set of rotations. It's just about maintaining yourself and your presence inside of the hill. And, well, yeah, as you said, Oze is able to at least fish out Wisdom. That should buy a lot of time for the hit to come back up through the upper courtyard stairs, which Electric will absolutely start to do. They'll find 2 inside of the small room over by the desk. This will completely buy a lot of space as Jolteon actually makes their presence felt. So will Zay from range. They know that Oklahoma Christian are all spawning over by the dock side still. This can get really nasty if the 25 seconds go completely unrecognized.
What a heads-up play from Electric! This is exactly what you want to see from a team who's looking to, we'll call it what it is, upset Oklahoma Christian. It's not the first time that a team has been able to do this, but these are just heads-up plays to get out of the hard point. No, you're not being challenged from the front, so put a little bit of pressure to the middle of the map. These are fantastic eliminations for New Mexico State. Oklahoma Christian will get the better part of about 10 seconds of scrap time, but look at the zone from Turkey Neck all the way forward in towards fire. 5 kills in a row. New Mexico State all over the second hard point. God, they're playing so well, man. That hurts. That really does hurt. That restart really hurts.
It does. It really, really does.
Not really. It comes off. The pop filter, it just comes off. So.
What are you gonna do with that now?
I don't know. I'm gonna reattach it.
You know what's funny is that you actually now I'm looking at you, like you kind of look like a middle school gym teacher. Is what you. But anyway, yeah, every restart's gonna suck for New Mexico State because they were playing clinical hardpoint. I mean, when you think about it, you go towards the first set from 1 to 2. They chalk the back 20 seconds. They win the rotation into 2. They completely control all of the P street. And then they do the same thing from 2 to 3, maintaining those back warehouse spawns. They're able to find what felt like maybe like 1-2 kills over by the dock side. There was nobody in position for OC to try to recorrect that immediate fall through that came through from that one player guarding out those P3 spawns. They lost those. And then going to the backside 4, they do the same thing. It's just breaking from the back. Most of the time, when we're talking about CCL teams or even teams with a high break potential like London Royal Ravens, for example, they're not always playing for the spawns first and foremost. They just bull rush their way through the front. But the way that the Aggies played out that first set, and even from 1 to 2 into our second set before the lobby crash down, was phenomenal hardpoint being exhibited by 1, 2, if not all players. When the time is absolutely right, they know when to rotate and find themselves those key gunfights to win out the rotations.
Yeah, man, that's one that you have to. If you're New Mexico State, you cannot let that affect you mentally, because you were in a great spot. You did exactly what was asked, right? I mean, you gave up 10 seconds of scrap time in favor of zoning rotation and opening up the next hard point with about what should have been about at least 30 seconds guaranteed.
Yeah,
you got to just be like, all right, cool, whatever, keep doing what we're doing. It's working. That's the biggest thing. We see that very regularly in the CDL, even in challengers, when things get reset like this. Some teams just don't, they cannot put themselves in the mental space to just reset and just do it over again. I'm hoping that New Mexico State has the coolness to come through with those little Pistol Pete here. Sit there, hang out, chill, come back in, do the same thing over again. Because right now they're winning in this map. I know it's not like significant, but how they're playing the map, they very well were on the pathway to beating this Oklahoma Christian team on map 1.
And if you're Oklahoma Christian, now you have an opportunity to be able to recognize where things got a little bit wrong for them. I mean, the map was relatively close, right? I mean, when you're thinking about the initial time that they saw on 3, somewhat contested time on 2, the time that they were able to find on 4, what was the biggest problem for that? Well, it was everything that I already said, so I'm not going to go into a giant podcast about it because it's going to be a full restart in between the Aggies versus Oklahoma Christian. And I'm going to completely sound like a broken record at this point between the two of us, Alan. I'm going to agree with you. For the Aggies, it's just about going in, playing Aggie Call of Duty, and just playing nice, reserved control and fundamental hardpoint for them to be able to constantly put themselves in positions to be able to get that initial 20, to have the close response. Because when things get closer, when teams both get to, like, say, a 180, 200 score line, and we reach that final time when they need those last 5 seconds, that's what's going to win you the game. And so long as you can continue to hold that composure that you were talking about, this should be an easy dub for the Aggies.
Just going over it, I'm trying to remember, and I'm trying to change the conversation away from breaking down the analytics of 8 hard points. If I'm not mistaken, Oklahoma Christian missed out on their top cut because of the losses, not just to Ottawa in Independence Community College, but also the biggest surprise that was Oklahoma State, if I'm remembering that correct. I think that was the division they were in. Or they may have been in the St. Edwards and Texas State in the UTA region. I don't remember. And then for New Mexico
Oklahoma State one sounds right.
That's what I was thinking as well. And then for New Mexico State, it was that head-to-head battle versus New Mexico that they lost that kept them out of the Western top cut, which features Grand Canyon, Arizona State, and New Mexico State. Right. So, man, that it really goes to show that, again, those independent Stage 1 regions were difficult regions. And, you know, there are some second cut teams that I think are going to really struggle in the second cut, but these two are not them. These two teams arguably would have done better in the top cut than some of the other bottom qualifiers that made it to the top cut. Like, I'm looking at University of Texas. I'm also looking at CSUN. Like, I think those two teams are likely not as good as these two on screen. So it's just the way that the format works, and you got two squads now that are really going to be tested versus one another here, which we've said a million times. I'm just reiterating it, I guess.
Say it one more time. Sorry, no, I'm just kidding. Don't say it one more time. I forget who I ended up seeing it. I saw it on the TL a little bit ago. It might have been last week. I don't think that it was actually the College COD account. It might have been someone within the community. I mean, obviously it had to have been. But they put everybody from, like, the east, the southeast, northeast, and then they showed, like, the Midwest, but most importantly the West, and they were like, here's a real College COD going on over here. Because when you're really thinking about it, like, the amount of teams that we had in Tier 1 that could have absolutely made a running when it came down to Tier 2 and had a lot of competition ahead of them, it's astronomical in my opinion, because you have those two teams on your screen right now that when you go through the LCQ, we'll continue to push this narrative even more so until we do get those cross-regional battles in the playoffs where some of these teams are going to be able to get their revenge, if you will.
Fair. No idea the status of what's going on right now. So with that, some things to a break. Hopefully it won't take too long. I imagine there's probably some debate whether there's going to be a point lead given or if it's going to be a full restart or something of the nature. We know how players are. So we'll step away, and hopefully we'll be back without, again, too much delay. I want to see more COD. I want it. It's March Madness, baby. Breaking stuff. Send it to break.
Could have possibly found one through.
Well, this is an interesting development, one which I don't think a lot of people would have expected, but as you see it, up there, New Mexico State is going to be given the W as Oklahoma Christian was found to be the team that closed the lobby. So it wasn't necessarily a tech problem. But what we're getting, again, I'm no admin, I just work here. So with that said, New Mexico State will have a 1-0 map lead, and we are now going into map number 2 for the search and destroy. Interesting developments, and I think for New Mexico State, you're sitting there saying, all right, let's go. We got this going for us. Can they keep the momentum rolling, though, I think is the biggest question. And I think on the opposite side, hey, I brought it up. I don't mean to be the bad guy here. What does the composure look like for Oklahoma Christian after this? Because we know that, in teams in the past, hasn't necessarily been there.
Especially after, unfortunately, losing that map number 1. But it was like only like maybe about like 9, 10, if not maybe 11 points in between the two when it ended up, that entire debacle ended up happening. So, I mean, there was a very big cause for consideration that Oklahoma Christian would have been able to at least amount of comeback, if not rectify a lot of the issues in that first set. But we'll have to see. Oklahoma Christian, when they typically lose that first map, we'll see a couple of instances of them running at each other. That was back in stage number 1. Here in Tuscany, you're going to end up guaranteeing yourself 2 things. One, a lot of engagements in the middle of the map at this plan today.
All right, here we go. First blood onto Gus. Bomb planted, as mentioned. But a 4v3 retake coming through, and they just have no idea where this post plan is set up. Jolteon, well, he's not going to realize, but Wisdom has walked right by him. And it actually may provide an opportunity here. If Electric can clean up the back, maybe there is a chance to isolate one more in the corner. Bala was taken down to critical HP. But with him staying alive, it makes the job much more difficult on the reflank, and Oklahoma Christian, even without necessarily the numbers, they do hold on to the post plant.
Yeah, it's legitimately just that. It's from the quick plan, and then Wisdom is able to get out with their life. I wasn't fully seeing if there were any late or delayed nades, or if everything was just kind of tossed all willy-nilly through the middle of the map just early on, trying to get information and try to catch players off guard. But you know, that's the old Tuscan search and destroy. Now what we're mostly going to be dealing with these quick plans today is you're basically trying to read the middle of the map. Your player, top church, top nest, if you will be waiting for those late nades to try to dissuade those players from getting themselves onto A. The same could be said offensively. Jose gonna need a couple shots, but nice cover fire from Jolteon to take down the first blood.
What comes of it, though? Jose looking to get the bomb planted. Gus right around through the middle of the map for free. What in the world was Turkey Neck looking at? Because not only did Gus get around for free, Dez got the angle for the 1v1 up top on the high ground as well. So now it all falls once again to the shoulders of Electric MC. 1v3 situation. Bomb was not successfully planted, and it looks like Gus has seen him. Yep, that is indeed the case. And that will be it. Oklahoma Christian just run through mid-map for free, I guess.
Yeah. There's my mid-map analysis. It was for free. It was absolutely for free. Free. It's
F-R-E-E free?
Stop and burst out a song. I think that it's again one of those things that you just have to be able to pick and find that information, because I mean, even Zabe was planning the bomb. I know that we have the entire spectator client on our side. We have the X-ray, so we see the player outlines and everything. But he did see that player cross directly in front of him through the middle of the map. And again, Turkey Neck was top flyer. Don't necessarily know what they were looking at, but got to try to clean things up going forward. Ball gets in the bottom church escapingly for free. Did they get that first kill? Yes, they sure will.
Good first blood, but in the same moment, the exchange for New Mexico State is looking pretty solid for them. They've got Electric already top side, and that's fine. Even if he does get flanked here by Gus, he's already taken down the bomb carrier. You know this, and well, it's not just the fact that he gets the kill. He also gets away. So now up to Gus. 1v3 situation. Man that has definitely shown himself as much improved in the challenger scene. This would be a highlight in its own right, I'd say.
That's time to do it. 40 seconds.
Definitely does.
You're looking up top church. Oh. See Jose the second time around. Doesn't get the bullets initially. Electric is in bottom well. Comes out to help out his teammate. The information was mutual, but not immediately seeing the player over inside the corner is going to come back to absolutely haunt them going forward. Electric lives with 9 HP. I mean, there's a real world, even with the automaton, you're able to transfer those two players, or with the rat pistol. It is quite good, but yeah, scary stuff coming through, because again, Bala able to get in the bottom side of church. I believe was actually seen from top church. The player up top was turning all the way down. You could tell that the Aggies in the opening rip at least had the understanding that it was coming through, but the play initially was set for those nades right over top of the ruins to be able to catch those players off over by you. They were able to get those early numbers advantage, just hold the space.
How about this? 4-man hit right in towards church. Gus and Dez just throwing shots up top, allowing the SMGs to run right on through. Wisdom for one, looking for the second. A little dance with Jolteon, and Dez says, there is no dancing here. I will be the chaperone to this high school prom. And as Gus turns back around to find Electric MC back up into him, now it's on to Turkey Neck. 1v2, plenty of time, and it looks like he will utilize that clock as he resets.
And probably try to re-wrap all the way upside and top fire. Maybe they can get a little timing and an angle to look through fire, but they actually don't even have to look at the angle. They're actually going to take this time all the way through E5. We try to get themselves over by B. And you can see that Oklahoma Christian on the minimap are completely okay with this. They're going to be playing back-to-back. Going to play for the retake. not look for some time to get down here at B.
Gonna commit to it. Timing is good for it. Oklahoma Christian still throwing nades over towards A. And Turkey Neck is going to take the advanced position. But he's playing a 1-for-1 trade corner. There's no way you get both of them from here. Don't love this setup. Yeah, I think the best play there is to play forward onto the staircase. Give yourself a chance to reset. Don't just play in a corner. That's, I think, a little bit misread. And Oklahoma Christian will get the kill and find their third round.
It's such a forward positioning, though. Like, even putting yourself over by the half wall, I see the play, and I understand it. But, I mean, in a 2v1, the enemy team is going to be playing for the trade. You have no opportunity. It's not like the bomb is just going to sprout arms and legs and be able to pick up an MP40 from the ground and try to get that trade for itself as well. But it's a scary spot to be in, truly. I mean, you got the timing. I would have almost appreciated to try to put yourself up top patio because there was going to be more opportunity to be able to get out with your life versus trying to get all the way over towards the B zone. But maybe didn't feel the timing to be able to get over there. More speculation aside, it's a 2-round lead here for Oklahoma Christian. Dez is going to take some opening shots towards Jolteon. They're going to communicate that. Does Wisdom hit it? It sure will. Some opening shots will come through, but it's first blood for the Aggies.
It's great first blood, but again, it's just anytime that there's something that looks like it's going right for New Mexico State, like Oklahoma Christian is putting themselves in a pretty solid spot. Now, that said, this little poke play around the back has been at least somewhat read. Turkey Neck and Jolteon have both seen a couple. But Wisdom has moved so quickly around the back that New Mexico State's just not ready for this. And then the information onto Oze comes through. Wisdom trying to YY and cancel the reload. Does not get the shots off in time. We go to V2. Opportunity to plant it A, and Gus will take that opportunity to get this bomb down.
Jolteon's not going to be able to get in a position to be able to contest this without dropping down from Nest. They got to try to retake this. Got to wait for Oze to come all the way back through. Where's the post plant going if you are Gus? We'll be looking like top fire. Dez will be shortly behind them. Try to play some timing to maybe catch these players to the middle of the map, but they're all coming through the ruin side.
Yeah, and there's no way you can test this high ground post plant location. You've got 2 stuns, which should be thrown out to check this, but they're not. Jose backed off the defuse. Not enough time to get these players out. You just have to kind of hope and pray you can smoke somebody from top side of the bomb heady, and that's not going to happen. Well, the success story that we were starting to build for New Mexico State and the hard point has been absent here in the search thus far. Oklahoma Christian, even being red on this long play around the back, still find a way to sneak away this round.
I think what you're just recognizing is the difference in years of success of Search and Destroy. Not even just like fully years, but I mean, like, I guess like time spent playing high level Search and Destroy for Oklahoma Christian, not saying that New Mexico State, the Aggies don't have that specific timing or the aspiration to be a strong Search and Destroy team, but you could just tell their commitments, their executions are just a margin off being so good. Trying to read where the post-plant situations are coming through just a little bit too late. Nice early stun coming through from Jolteon, but again, a first blood is here. Numbers advantage quickly will be mitigated 3v3.
And Jose needs to plant this bomb. Oh, Electric has just barely seen the top of Wisdom. Good first kill. And again, he slips away from Gus. So now the information is 100% known. The thing about this is Gus is in a really solid spot up top, maybe to find someone off the exit. No, not able to get any information on Jose whatsoever. And now Jolteon playing a tight corner would be fine. So we'll see. Gus is trying to make his way around the back. He'll have a 1v1 with Jose first by the look of it, if this continues in the same manner that we've seen. I believe Gus actually has seen him. Well, now he surely has. Easy 1v1. Jolteon's post-plant clutch-up position will be on the fountain stairs. Nade comes out. That's actually not going to connect. So Jolteon actually has to check this again. But the bomb is not being defused, and Jolteon has seen what he needs to see. Even beyond that, finds the kill onto Gus, and the Aggies will get on the board again.
That was a great post-plant situation when you're really thinking about it. I mean, you put yourself in the aloof position down over by the well. For Gus, I mean, it's kind of a 1-in-3 shot that you end up trying to re-rotate all the way through bottom side of P5 and try to get yourself clear bottom side of fire. But if you rewrap through that way, then you're basically going to be giving up maybe a timing for a player to get up top fire. Don't clear out of view. There's just so many different possibilities that would have ended up happening if you try to go through that direction. So he's able to put themselves back on the board here are the Aggies. Quick offense. We saw this round number 1 from Oklahoma Christian this time, though. Zay does take down Bala. Can't get into the church for 3.
But the bomb again gets down successfully, which has been the linchpin of victory success for Oklahoma Christian on almost every single one of their offenses so far. Wisdom mid-map, a couple of stray shots, turns attention his way. Trades will be there. But again, the long play through Gus. Gus knows he's got time. He hears doors opening up below him, so he can kind of take a different route, get over the middle of the map. No one's on for the defuse as of yet. Now it's a 3v4 turned to a 2v2. Dez able to come and help out, and it's just down to Electric again.
Man.
There is next to no post-plant awareness in any of these rounds for New Mexico State.
Bomb goes down and everybody just kind of floods through the middle of the map. I mean, it was a great collapse, truly. I mean, they got that first blood on Abala. They collapsed onto Wisdom through the middle of the map, just completely negated any sort of clutchability that Wisdom was going to be able to at least go one and get away with their life. At least they were able to find that trade. But the second that one kill comes through top P5, that one player just completely eludes the rest of New Mexico State and then repositions top church, giving themselves an ample amount of chances to be able to stop anybody from the Aggies to hop on. Almost win offense, of which Bala is looking to shut down single-handedly. They'll find the first 2 kills, 2v3, 1v3. Good luck, have fun, Turkey Neck.
Oh, man. That hurts.
Yeah.
If you're New Mexico State, I think in the worst ways. Turkey does at least have the bomb to play with here, just under a minute. And I was about to set up how he can maybe do this, and then he runs right on into the remaining player on the outside of the A site. Wow. Really, for me, New Mexico State starts off almost every single one of those defenses correctly with a good first blood or a good exchange in the first engagement, but then just draw blanks on feeling out and setting up a post-plant break. It just felt like way too many times Oklahoma Christian was just sprinting through, getting the bomb planted, and then having the ability to work around into weird spaces to where New Mexico State just kind of got caught like with cement on their shoes.
Oh, it almost one-dimensional, didn't it, at a lot of different times, even for, like, the retakes that they were just almost instigating or, like, our last bit of information was over here, not where that last bit of information would then transition into, right? I mean, like, you can even go back to their last defense for a possible retake. I mean, I could go back and overanalyze every single round for post-plant situations or awareness as we are coining it here. But, I mean, if you get that last bit of information over top P5, that's where the trade came through on the Jolteon. There's no need to red chase or red dot chase that. There's no possible way.
There's no need for red chase to come in.
Maybe there is. I don't know. But like, I think at the end of it, there's no real reason why you should ever suspect that player will not only remain in P5. You have to put yourself a few steps further. Where's the position going to lead? If we are all here over by ruins, we're holding over in the backside of the alleyway. Where is that top P5 position going to go? It's going to go towards top fire. It's going to go over towards top church. That top church rotation comes all the way through. Nobody was looking at it, and then the Gus is able to find those 2 kills in the middle of the map. Look at he split and completely shut down any sort of retake possibility.
I don't even need to think it needs to get that overcomplicated. I think, you know, New Mexico State, just pick where you want to take away the post plant from. Anything would do. You know, you don't have to read every little play that's happening, but at least put yourself in a position to contest those bomb plants. They never really did. Dez went 11-3. That also helps. Gus for 1,400 damage also is not a bad thing at all. So with that, now we're tied up 1-1 in the series. And we head on into a control. I believe it's Gavudu, if my memory serves me right, which it often doesn't. The thing about this is, well, we kind of saw at different moments in time, Oklahoma Christian were finding a lot of success with their ARs when they were finding success in Berlin. So obviously we expect that Gavudu is going to be heavily dominated by who sees who first and whose long-range shots are cleaner than the others. But that said, we also credited New Mexico State for their ability to break. And I think that when you look at this from the offensive side of things, will they be able to put themselves in continual good positions? Because the one thing that's different, obviously, between control and hardpoint is once you take an L on the attack, on Gavudu in particular, you have to fight through a number of things. You don't just get to reset and set yourself up for W's. You have to re-fight through all of the space that you just lost. So I'm curious to see if New Mexico State will be able to handle that when they do find L's, which inevitably they're going to, because this Oklahoma Christian team is going to contest them at some point in time. They're not just going to roll over and die here.
Good to control will continue to be a monotonous one as well, for the simple fact, again, just for everybody at home that keeps on questioning it. You're not playing tip regression. It is still lives remaining to settle out that round 5. Look, you can come away and you can win an offense as decisively as we've seen some other teams in the past, challengers and the CDL included, then you're going to be in a better spot. But I think you're absolutely right that Oklahoma Christian, they're never going to be fully counted out. It could be a 1v4, and any one of these players for Oklahoma Christian are going to absolutely throw their lives just to try to recontest any of the zones. But it's a tough one when you're thinking about getting that A zone and converting it back over towards the B zone. It's kind of a blown-up Tuscan, if you will, with a whole lot less cover. If you can't get back green control, you can't get top green control within the same position with one another. And then once you get on the backside of P3, to be able to not only continue to showcase your ability to not read the spawns, but to continue to slay out while keeping your own life in the back, that B zone more often than not never comes through. That's actually why we're seeing a lot of teams more often than not try to go for broke and go over that B zone early because it catches the defensive teams off guard. That's what I'm also going to be looking at to see if New Mexico State or Oklahoma Christian will go for that wild card play off the opening rip for their offenses to try to get that B zone early and give themselves a better shot of an offensive win.
We'll see. We're not going to take the break here because we already had enough of those. So we're just going to jump right on into map number 3. The Voodoo Control. I already said it more than enough times. And we're about to learn today. We're still going to learn today. We are about to learn today about what's about to come unfolding here with both these two squads. And I think at this point for New Mexico State, like, you have to continue to impress us from what you were able to do in the limited amounts of Berlin hardpoint that we had gotten. I feel like the moment you let a Bala or a Gus or a Wiz just take over, I don't know. I don't know how you come back on a map like this, especially from the offensive side, where you feel like you're going to need to, if not win an attack, you have to at least keep the life count close. So we'll see. But we'll have to wait for the offensive POV of that conversation as Oklahoma Christian will start on the attack. Wisdom, not sure if he wanted to go up top or not, has decided to join his teammates down low. And interestingly enough, Ball's going to be the first one to touch with an automaton in hand. Very curious indeed. And with that, New Mexico State get to the middle of the map first and find the first 3 kills.
A little weird, isn't it? While you're trying to touch
4 AR
versus...
setup?
Surely not. I thought I saw at least one. I mean, it could be, honestly. And the hip fire of the automaton, pretty darn good. But you got to be able to get inside the zone first and foremost. And Electric is up here, still trying to at least negotiate anybody trying to get on in towards the zone itself. Gus will be the first one in. Electric will cut them down. And these are great kills to be able to at least try to mitigate any sort of offensive opportunities for Oklahoma Christian. It's just a single life lead that the Aggies have. Oklahoma Christian still have ball at top third.
This is 1,000,000% 4 ARs for Oklahoma Christian. All right. So the only sub of the map right now is Electric. Gus will pick it up, so at least there is some SMG presence, which, you know, as much as we talk largely about how ARs are preferred on this map, SMGs are necessary to get into these zones, especially around A. So as the trades start to come through, finally some progress is being made by the Eagles. 20v16, 23 seconds on the clock, and more kills will not just allow the second tick of progress, the third is quickly being scored. As Jolteon will get some high ground, does he contest this? Help from the back. Balla have to respond to that. Not going to be able to. Is there contest, at least for long enough? It looks like there will be. And with 20 seconds of the clock, some depletion will come through. Jolteon with the most awkward pistol fight you've ever seen in your life with Dez. We'll turn that into now a full clearance of the third zone, and there's not really a lot of time here for Oklahoma Christian to do too much.
This was about a 4 or 5 life lead that Oklahoma Christian actually had over New Mexico State while that A zone was being secured. And you have to go for broke right there. Wisdom will touch it last second. Not a whole lot of help here. You also have Jolteon just cutting down players over by Cliff. The middle of the map is completely secured by New Mexico State. And those last few lives that Oklahoma Christian just threw away to try to get the clock extended is what we were talking about. You know, it's never chalk for Oklahoma Christian for all 4 of these players. They're going to try to make the play happen, but those last few lives might actually come back to hurt them. And it was going to be the conversation point I was going to say on the opposite side, that if the A zone actually got secured by Oklahoma Christian, and those 3 lives that the Aggies threw over by the A zone just to get it back in their favor with 20 seconds remaining, they would have been able to look at a very steep win condition for Oklahoma Christian. Balla right in the goose egg chain, by the way. Going on in towards the second round would be a big one to obviously convert New Mexico State and win this offense.
Well, Electric falling means that New Mexico State...
It's like a campaign pistol fight, I swear.
These two guys just continue to fight each other over the ladders. Oh my god, I can't, dude. That's actually comedy. Oh man, New Mexico State still able to get out of spawn and towards the A zone, but having a problem dealing with Dez in a multitude of ways. Finally take care of him. And that will lead to the clock stalling out for a moment as New Mexico State hold a life lead, and Jolteon continues to make sure that any OC reinforcements are dealt with immediately.
We're going to work up that A-zone progression again. When it comes down to, I mean, finding all the opening kills at the opening break is going to be good, but the most important thing when it comes down to control is stopping that clock. First stick of progress will now come through for New Mexico State. They're going to put themselves in maybe a position to try to maybe get more off of this. Jolteon's worried about the cross and the flank, of which that is a great read. But I really like the progressive nature that's coming through from the Aggies on their offense is they're making sure that they're always cycling a player out to make that get top ring in their position. They're always keeping the middle of the map in their mindset, Alan, but by doing so, it's a very slow progress over towards A.
And the long play around the back through the top side of ring does not really find much success. So Oklahoma Christian take away a lot of ground here, not just off the A zone, but Dez is in a position to watch players off cross. Of course, the Aggies aware, deal with the threat. Now you expect at least 2 players to get on, get this third tick quickly. Balla, who is just 2 and 12. I had words in mind that I did not feel comfortable saying on broadcast, but he is making the bed that he is dying in at the moment. And that's not good news. 14 v 10, 70 seconds to play, and this is still doable for New Mexico State on this offense.
Watching fastball on this map reminds me, it's probably a select few people I know that you will, reminds me of Chaxer from Revenge Tour and EU Challengers playing on this map. It's just, Ball is an SMG player through and through, and he just looks very confused and lost on this map as a whole and where he should be at certain moments in time. And the team needs to be able to collect off of that, but the second that they try to get themselves any positional advantage, Mexico State and their ARs are absolutely feasting right now. 15 and 6 for Jolteon is on a 5 spree, 15 and 10 for Jose is on 2. Tricky Neck finds themselves on a 3, low amount of engagements, but even more so when it's 13 v 5, 35 seconds remaining. All you have to do is just get one player over towards the zone. You got to be able to find these kills, but it's still a realistic opportunity that Oklahoma Christian can still convert this defense.
Yeah, 100%. It's just it's a misplay, honestly, for New Mexico State. You've got a zone around this B point. You just have to keep the guns up and wait for players defensively to have to cross. And at least two players got caught off sprint, making a play through the mid-cut. Still doable, though. 8v4, 19 seconds to play with. Streaks are being called in. Electric able to find one. He knows there's a player inside. Has to chip away, though, at the woodwork around it. This is all costing time. Around the back now. 7v1. It's just up to Dez. Player crossing. Able to take down the first. Gets a read on Turkey Neck. One more in front. Still has time to play with. It's Jolteon down low, looking for the chow. Gets tagged up. Dez for the third. Gonna get the reload off. Still so much progress has to be made, but the jumping shots eventually connect. And New Mexico State will win the offense and go up 2-0.
About to knock over my green screen. I was like bouncing back in my chair so far right there. That's crazy. Dez actually gave themselves a real good chance to maybe try to find that. But again, that was actually really well played by Jolteon. Like, things are wall bangable on that tank. I don't even know what it's still called. Do you know what that thing is called? I still have yet to learn, truly. But even still,
with the lander,
the lander. Thank you.
Yeah.
Over by the B zone, it's wall bangable once you're in the center of it. But through 2 walls, the automaton, even with FMJ, won't fully cut all the way through. So wonderful played by Jolteon. It was just trying to get those little jump peaks. Obviously, a long-lasting battle finally came through, but the clock was the immediate consideration. Must-win offense. Everything forward will be for the Eagles as they find themselves at least a cleaner break of the previous few, bringing an SMG to play this time around.
And this needed to happen.
Yeah.
You cannot sit in the A zone with just an automaton. That's just not going to happen. Jose, bold challenge, nearly gets a read on the Gus up top. Jolteon looking to follow up. The shot's just a bit amiss, though. And that will cost him his life. Electric on the way forward. Balla trying to help out actually forces a team kill in the midst. And that actually doesn't just stop the offensive pressure. It actually allows the defense to get super far forward. But not really able to make too much out of those positions. That is until Electric takes away the jungle pathway. A double there means now the clock is starting to really be suffocated. And it's a 20v19 where you have to break and get an extra 60 seconds right here for Oklahoma Christian.
You're always seeing all these Aggies just try to keep ring in mind, cycling players out to zone away the cliff path as well. This is just really good fundamental control that's coming through from the Aggies defensively. They at least look at the information that Gus is over by this rock, over by the offensive tank, will finally be dealt with. 25 seconds remaining, even lives. Oklahoma Christian need to make this push happen now.
They're finding a couple eliminations that'll get them onto the zone, but it's not convincing by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh.
And this is it. This is 3-0 control right here, unless Paula can do something immaculate. Jose is on the back. He's going to be able to help out and also stifle any reinforcements coming through this pathway. So you know everything's coming through mid. What are we watching, bro? Like, this is a former pro player and 2 players that are averaging better than top 32 in challengers, and they can't take a round on control Gavudu? What is happening?
Well, and they brought 4 ARs to the opening rip of offense. I don't know if they were confused on what side that they were starting on, but all I can tell you is that they brought 4 ARs and they tried to slow roll their way in towards A against an SMG up top and an SMG down low for the Aggies. And while they were slow rolling their way all the way across the map, even slow rolling, I'm sorry, they were stumbling their way across the map, both offense and defense alike. They were always just struggling to be able to not find these isolated engagements, but to deal with the constant flank pressure that was coming through from the Aggies. It was sloppy. It was sloppy. Not even sloppy. It was terrible control coming through from Oklahoma Christian for all the stipulations that you just said right there. Former pro player, players that are playing throughout the North American Challengers Cups and finding decent value with it as well. This just simply cannot happen. It just almost looked like they would roll it over to TeamSpeak. They rolled over to Discord. They completely muted all the comms, and everybody just went on their way. And specifically for Fastball, it looked like that he had no communication whatsoever. He was trying to play with his toes at certain one point or another because quad negative for Fastball on that Gabutu control is just not what you want to see.
He didn't even break past 1,000 damage, man. Like,
They playing Surge?
oh, the thing about it is, I'm not trying to come off as like the bad guy here. It's baffling. It's mind-blowing. Like, these are players that load up and square off against teams like Texas Nation on a weekend-by-weekend basis. Like, I want to say Gus had he almost qualified for Elite in the first stage. He finished like top 12.
Yeah, he did.
So it's like, what? How? And maybe the Aggies are just cold, bro. I don't know. Like, these guys are icy or something, but I am at a complete loss for words. Never in my career did I ever think that I would be in a position here watching over players that have a lot of promise, not just in what they've done in the past, but especially for Gus and Wiz, what they've got built up moving forward. And you can't get past New Mexico State in the second cut of the CCL on a Gavudu control. I'm at a complete loss. Again, that hardpoint Berlin that you see there score-wise is reflective of the forfeit that comes through, not necessarily the score that we had in the match until the lobby had closed. So, I don't know. Thoughts as we go into the Bacage hardpoint from map 4 here?
Gotta hit a regain button. Gotta somehow find that regain button. I don't know, maybe it's locked in a chest underneath your bed. Maybe it's in a drawer. I don't know, man, because you just simply got to completely just wipe the sweat off your brow if you're OC and just go back into the Bocage hardpoint and just continue to play as Slay dominant as we know that these 4 players can absolutely be, because Bocage hardpoint will absolutely benefit a team that can absolutely slay out so long as they don't get over egregious with their positioning, don't get lost in the red dot trying to get themselves too many kills, try to buff up that stat line. At least better than quad negative when it comes down to Bala, because that is just not a good performance when it comes down to Gavutu control. And just to go back to the previous point as well, if you're not able to at least take a round off New Mexico State Aggies later on down the line, even in the LCQ, let alone playoffs, if you do end up qualifying for OC, that is a scary point in time that if you don't win that coin flip, you don't end up getting a Tusky control. I don't even know. Maybe you just chalk map 3 at that point. You just try to become a 1, 2, and 3 team, or 1, 2, 4 team. I don't know.
That's tough, man. That's tough scenes. But here's the thing. For Bacage, I just look at how New Mexico State was putting together that Berlin hardpoint, where they were very calculated in where do we want to take risks? Where do we want to just give up, kind of take our loss, concede, and reset? Because if they can find ways to make those decisions quickly and make the right decisions, because the windows to make those decisions, to be fair, in Bacage are very slim because of how quickly you can get across the map. It's very different than Berlin. So if they do find themselves in a position where it's like 20 seconds, we just got 4-man wiped, do we contest the scrap time that we're giving away for free? or do we just concede it in setup? Because both of them have pros and cons. You go for those breaks, you get full wiped again, you've just lost rotation. But if you give away 20 seconds for free, you're putting yourself kind of pigeonholed and just bunkering down. So, I don't know. I'm putting out, a huge reaching point. We'll see if we get any examples of that coming through, but I am mostly, and I think the most elementarized say it, I'm interested to see what decisions New Mexico State make.
We knew that they were fundamentally strong. They won the rotations from 2, 3, and 4 before our game ended up being closed out by OC on that Berlin hardpoint, but to be a lot more affirmative when it comes down to a Bocage hardpoint. Do not allow Oklahoma Christian to start feeling themselves, start finding these gunfights continuously. Nice set nade to open things up for Electric. We'll end up seeing Oklahoma Christian starting off on the favorite side, but the barn control immediately in favor of the Aggies.
Yeah, that's 3 dead as well. Last one to find would be Balla. But they take down Wisdom instead. Oze eventually deal with it, and it's a full flip. It's a full flip. Clean as you could possibly want it to be. It just... How do you not get any eliminations on these longer flanks if you're Oklahoma Christian? You've got the favorite side. You start off on the favorite side. It's ridiculous. But they at least respond back. 3 straight kills. Gets them a chance to not just contest the tie, but they're also looking to re-flip and re-break these spawns as well.
10 seconds to look to do it. Gotta almost think that has to be Balla to try to do it. But, I mean, Jolteon is just in a prime position over inside of the shed. Finds 2 players trying to get through the middle of the map. They'll be cut down. The only player to glow up in red in the kill feed will end up being Wisdom. And now Electric is just in a forward position. They're just gunning everybody inside of the AS&D site, just constantly keeping all of Oklahoma Christian guessing where the play is going to be coming from. While this is all happening, the first 20 seconds are being secured by the Aggies.
Yeah, that's really, really good from Electric. He really has been a treat to watch with a sub in his hand. 10-3 start. Not even through 2 hard points, by the way. This dude is all over the map. A little turn on. Goodness. Wisdom nearly just got put onto a poster, but instead turns it into a double. And with that, Oklahoma Christian are able to turn a bad into a good by getting a break here for some significant scrap time.
Yeah, scrap time, 20 seconds. I mean, that's big time when it comes down to a Bocage. Those 20 seconds go over towards the Aggies. We're talking about a 55 to about, what would it be, like almost like 18 of Oklahoma Christian. And soak up the back end of this 5 seconds. It'll make this just about an even game. So now you got to try to hit through the back if you are Oklahoma Christian. The player number 2 on the minimap is actually going to be Gus. Trying to get this play from behind, and now they're going to completely reveal themselves, and this is a coordinated push coming through from Oklahoma Christian. Gus reveals themselves and towards the back. They is successful from the front, and Christian are in for 3.
They'll have to fight up against these spawns for the Aggies, who are getting picked apart one by one. Need to see something set up on the other hand. Oh, good shots from Wisdom. All of it into the face of Electric. No chance to contest. Nades will get the only bit of influence that New Mexico State can find. Try to contest this time. This has been a very successful hold thus far for Oklahoma Christian from the front. But eventually the numbers come together. 4 straight kills come in, and an opportunity for New Mexico State to try to win this scrap time, but once again contested and turned aside. It's Oklahoma Christian on what has been the better part of a near full 60 here on the third.
Yeah, it was an initial break within the first 5 seconds. They coordinate that pinch from the backside of Gus, even with New Mexico State holding on to those closer spawns. Oklahoma Christian are able to recognize that. They then slay out. Again, this is where things can get really dangerous. Look, we gassed up that Electric was, 10-3? Now they're 14-11. Quite the different turnaround for those opening 2 hard points in days. You want to talk about building posters and putting players on them. A laid down little hip fire shot was that. He's going to try to immediately mitigate that, but this is what I was worried about for OC. They start getting the hot gunnies. They really start feeling themselves. This is a map that could absolutely benefit them, but New Mexico State are quickly off the press, going to completely give themselves an opportunity to try to bounce back in towards this game because they could use the rest of the side you're on for.
The Aggies, I'm serious, man. It's just the way that they're setting up around these hills has been really sound. Yeah. You got Electric once again playing kind of a rogue role, is getting great help behind him with the other 3, and that just allows you a chance individually to feel so damn comfortable. So after it was a very successful hold for the 3rd hardpoint and grannies for the Eagles of Oklahoma Christian, New Mexico State essentially one-up them in a way on the 4th, and they win the rotation into River. Jolteon on 5 cannot get away from the fire from Dez up top. Oze in a little bit of a tough gunfight, but still is able to tally up the kill. And with that, we're looking at either a tie game or a lead swap, and with the kills, I'm leaning lead swap here.
Yeah, look at the way that the Aggies, again, when they're in a hard point, Allen, they are sinking in their teeth. Look at the setup. Zay is reading all these players, trying to get out from the Riverwalk. You also have Electric playing that island player again with the sub over by Patio. And then you also have Jolteon, who is in the clutch spot. They're going to be stunned up because the hit will finally be successful, but the second that Bala tries to challenge them, stun essentially wears off. You still have close spawns, full in effect here for the Aggies. They're able to recontest for the back 15.
Great finish to this hard point. The first set of rotations in this hard point for the Aggies. It's a marginal lead, but a lead nonetheless. Big 1v1 in the back, and Wiz is going to pull out a Volk here. We've seen this come out a couple of different times. Obviously, I think the most famous was the initial creator of this. Well, I was saying the initial, but at least the one player to kind of make it kind of infamous was Fishity in the first place. But we saw Adam Assault pull out this gun with 18 and Kraken challengers. And, well, its success has been a bit of miss. It's either hot or cold. I feel like we don't really see anything too convincing, or at least consistent in the middle of it. You're either doing really well with it or you're doing very poorly with it.
The thing that always is interesting about the Volk is that the Automaton will outrange it. And the thing about its overall spread and just ADS gunshots is that the reticle will absolutely bounce all over the place. You have to be ready to deal with it. But in a map like Bocage, where you can find value with the range, you can just kind of barrel stuff and just kind of guarantee yourself those medium, closer range gunfights. The Volk is quite powerful. So I definitely appreciate it being brought out here by OC for the time being. And Wisdom is starting to find a nominal amount of value with it as well. The play in towards the back to try to get these P2 spawns is about to be in effect. Gus is going to find themselves in a 1v1 over by the stables. Turkey Neck will take them down. So closer north spawns will still be in effect for the Aggies as soon as P2 pops.
But it is contested. You can see that for the Aggies, a lot of attention on the backside of Barn. With that, a lot of trust from the front that Jolteon can hold his own. And what the timing is this from MC? Oh, it's Electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. That's 3 in a row for Electric MC. And with that, the Aggies put a foothold on the hard point. You like my Electric slide reference, Andy?
Dude. I was ready. I was ready for the entire song to be broken out there. Allen Electric on a 5 spree, 27 and 15. He's playing the tune with a fiddle of this MP40. Is right back to heating things up from that 10 and 3 start. Wisdom will take them down with the Volk. That's over by P5. And you can see what the play is trying to manifest now. The Aggies got themselves a big lead. 40 seconds on any other hard point like Tuscan, Berlin, you could easily come back from that. But when it comes down to Bocage, that is a big lead. It's about to be at the 50-second margin. But when you go back towards the first set, this hard point was really good for Oklahoma Christian. They broke in with the initial 5, but now they're in for the initial time as we speak. They are dealing with all the players in spades and towards the back, which will be Wisdom. They'll pick up 2 off screen. That'll allow Ball to kick their feet up inside of Grandma's and eat some cookies.
Well, here you go. This has to be a repeat performance for Oklahoma Christian on this hard point as it was in the first set. And so far, a decent start through the better part of the first 30 seconds. Turkey Neck, though, looking to break on in, waiting for a little bit of help. Electric is not able to provide any of it, so now it does just result onto what Turkey Neck can do, and, well, the proximal spawns for Oklahoma Christian allow them to reinforce, but Oze just opens up the street side, and you thought maybe that would create a literal avenue for the rest of the Aggies to get here to contest, but once again, these are 2 near flawless holds for Oklahoma Christian on one of the more difficult maps in Vanguard.
Just comes down to constantly slaying out. And Oklahoma Christian, I mean, you don't need all of the, I guess, the rehearsal when it comes down to P3. You just got to be able to call out where players are at. You just got to slay out, and they've been able to do that consistently as a team when it comes down to P3. But when it comes down to these more lucrative hardpoints, 2, 4, and 5, the setups for the Aggies have been able to win them all these gunfights continuously. Gus of the Pistol will take down Electric. Would have been a big one if they could have taken down Jolteon as well. These pinstripe kill feeds are not going to be favorable for Oklahoma Christian. It's still Aggies with these close spawns, and they have a very good setup with the numbers that they still have.
That's from the front. Turkey Neck looking to lock down mid-map. Good awareness from Turkey Neck. Gets away on a 4 spree. YY's a reload, giving him a chance at Gus. But will not make good on the killing spree. Kills, though, will still allow the Aggies to still wreck this hard point, man. I mean, just as good as Oklahoma Christian have been on the third, the Aggies have done everything you could possibly ask them to recover and then reprove themselves here on the fourth. Wisdom to the pistol, not going to be able to deal with one nor the second contestant on the way in, and with that, the Aggies will be just knocking at the door of 200 points as Oze is already on the backside of this hard point for 5.
Completely goes unnoticed that Gus is back here. Actually was able to go for the read, but Gus is going to gun them. of the hedge spawns will still be in effect for Oklahoma Christian. This is what was actually big successful for the Aggies going over towards P5, was that they initially had the setup on the backside of the willow tree and over by the hedges, but the break from the front will be good. Jolteon with the automaton is going to be able to take down 2. Now the zoning going forward. Follow will be able to find that 2-piece, still keeping these back willow tree positions in Oklahoma Christian's favor. We're looking ourselves at about a dead even tie game unless New Mexico State Aggies can break right now, which they simply cannot. The zoning through the middle of the map, 2 pristine out of OC.
And this is when the decision-making that I question really needs to show itself. Dez is putting some problems into the backside spawns towards what's coming up next. And New Mexico State, fighting the war thinly on multiple fronts, can really not do too much besides get Oklahoma Christian off the P5 time. An 8-point game. New Mexico State, from the unfavored side, looking to put this down in 4, but it's Oklahoma Christian here late that have been doing well. What happens to the spawns, though? Oh, no, Oklahoma Christian not able to lock down the spawns. Gus, aware of it, turns that into an opportunity to go from 3 into the 4th. And all of a sudden, Oklahoma Christian, an opportunity to lock down the barn, and maybe some key hardpoint time on top of it as Gus is on 6.
Spawns are still in effect, though, for the backside of the Aggies. We still have 30 seconds of battle over. Keep in mind, you. So now that you're thinking about it for the rotation going forward, you really have to keep that in mind. Streaks in the back pocket, as you say. That could pay dividends, but so long as the Aggies can't continuously keep Oklahoma Christian off of this P1 hardpoint, they can always threaten it from the front. A big kill feed comes through for the Aggies. Now it comes down to just setting things up, trying to read where the hit's coming from into 2.
Oh, and Turkey Neck is zoning off the front, but wait a second. Wisdom on the outside. Has found a kill. How big is that from Turkey Neck? Runs forward, finds the kill, avoids the trade, turns around and sees more. Turkey Neck on to 4, and it's eventually Gus who puts him down. Double for him, but nothing more. Oklahoma Christian stopped at 231. Electric already making some space over to the swamplands, and Wisdom is the last player left. As Gus calls in the streak, he finds 1 elimination, but it's not enough to do anything to the hard point nor the spawns.
Yeah, I mean, if you're calling in those streaks, you better hope that you have positional advantage for Oklahoma Christian to be able to push all the way forward. The spawns are still in effect, and the Aggies are winning all the gunfights.
All of them, every single one of them. They could absolutely still win the game here. Dez trying to deal with Electric. Can he get forward? Turkey Neck just throwing shoulders, zoning, nades coming forward. Is this the downfall of the Eagles? Have their wings been clipped? Absolutely the case. It's the New Mexico State Aggies. And a huge play from Turkey Neck to deny any contests on the rotation to 2. New Mexico take it 3-1.
That is where the rehearsal comes back to absolutely bite you in the rear. When it comes down to the Eagles of OC, they were trying to put themselves in a position to try to break it from the front just off of overall gun skill. Once Turkey Neck ends up finding one, they get away with their life. That should have been the immediate go-ahead that when you spawn back in, you call in those streaks. You had the glide bomb. If you are still spawning out in the backside of hedge spawns and you lose the initial gunfight, you don't win the rotation from 1 to 2, you lose those players inside of barn. You know that all of the Aggies are still spawning into the backside of 2. You call in those streaks right there. It takes 10 years for that glide bomb to come all the way down. That you cannot afford to wait for that glide bomb to come back down when we are looking at a 10-second deficit in between you trying to close the game out or you trying to break that hard point. By that point, it is way too late. A little bit of hesitation on what the streak usage was going to be looking like for Oklahoma Christian. Maybe they wanted to get back inside and use the glide bomb to zone away reinforcements. Was not the play. Those close spawns inside the back 10 stalls are way too influential for any team's success to get an ample amount of time off of 2.
That is an unbelievable display from New Mexico State, man. Wow. I mean, look, let's just say it, Andy. We were setting up for this stream tonight, and we were like, oh, these will be 2 convincing series. They were, but not for the teams that we expected them to be. Don't well me. We both thought that it was going to be Illinois State and Oklahoma Christian on this one.
You never asked me.
Come on.
No, you're right. Yeah, yeah, dude, like, the Aggies, I mean, when it comes down to it, even going back to a lot of their Stage 1 matches, a lot of it was just because Electric was just going completely AWOL. Turkey Neck was right behind them. I've seen a lot of VOD of this Turkey Neck fella, and I know that I ragged on their name because it is really funny, and I was giggling every single time that you were getting really hyped saying his name like 10 times fast, but, like, the overall difference maker in between a flex player versus everybody else in a game like Vanguard, where you don't have all the biggest skill gap in the world, it comes down to two big things. Those are your core fundamentals in being able to read the routes and understanding where you need to be at that right time. That was exemplified to such a high degree by Turkey Neck in both maps 3 and 4. We saw it come through a little bit from what little we got to see of that Berlin hardpoint when they were able to chalk and rotate and put themselves in prime positions. But that 3 and 4, I know Electric went on a 10 and 3 start, but that 3 and 4 was absolutely won because Turkey Neck was always in the right place at the right time, always putting themselves in a position where they needed to be to at least go 1 for 2, which is big when it comes down to a map like Bocage hardpoint.
Telling you, both these teams had difficult stage 1 pools, and it's just how different it could have been with that New Mexico Lobos versus New Mexico State Aggies matchup in stage 1. And they miss out on it barely on being the third team in from the west to the top cut. But that is a massive win for New Mexico State. Biggest thing I'd say from here on out is do not get complacent, because this is a team that I think has definitely proved to us, not just through the first stage, but especially here, these guys can make noise when it comes to the LCQ, and I think even especially playoffs after that. But you've got to continue to just be really super extra critical, because you're not going to get a lot of extra tests from here on out outside of playing up against teams like Colorado Boulder, maybe Oregon, maybe UT Arlington. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because of, this was kind of the perennial matchup for the top cut, for the top side of the second cut, I should say. That said, though, that concludes our first day here in week 8. A lot more college COD action to come forward. It's March Madness, baby. I'm pumped. I'm not going to have a voice after tomorrow. Watch my Hoosiers take down Wyoming Cowboys. Weird team. Cowboys. Proper final thoughts.
I just want to see the skill ceiling of this New Mexico State. I want to see the skill ceiling of the Aggies. I know that they're probably really down on themselves because they did miss the Tier 1 division of the second stage here, the CCL, just ever so slightly. But I want to see how high their skill ceiling truly does go. Fundamentals in the hardpoint are absolutely phenomenal. I honestly think that it just comes down to their search and destroy to be able to truly lock things down and truly understand what those post-plan situations are going to be looking like, how to read the enemy team on what their post-plan situations are going to be looking like. You clean up a search and destroy and at least give yourselves at least 2 good search and destroy maps going forward. This team's going to be filthy, not only coming to the LCQ, but the playoffs as well.
I very much so agree, but we'll have to wait to see more of them as we come forward. Tomorrow, same times, same place, different regions. A lot more to learn about what's going on in the top cut over on the eastern side of the states. But until that point, we say farewell. Till next time, make sure you keep holding it down. Bye-bye.